to the united and one. In this land we are discounted. Got to end our division amongst men. No. So many have been replaced with the power money brings pain. No. There's no reason to.
Morning and happy Friday. Great Friday, wonderful Friday. And welcome to the Morning Wake and Bake Show with your family, the chosen family. I am Vari the man, your host for this morning. And yeah, I am doing my best to get over this crud I've been fighting off all week. But, I think I'm, at the hump. So anyways, let's get into it. Oh yeah, shit, I almost forgot. This show is brought to you by our community, Minnesota Marijuana. Check us out on Facebook. And our organization, Minnesota Normal. That is www.mnnormal.org. Go to the website, do some clicking around, do some research, and become a dues paying member. It's only $4.20 a month. It's pocket change, and it's $4.20. So come on. And join the fight for legalization in Minnesota. So in national news today, we're going to be talking about the study again. Tel Aviv, Israel apparently is like the spot for all these studies now. They're really doing their thing on cannabis, but they got a medical study that they did with a bunch of nursing home patients. And they're finding that adding cannabis to their medical regimen actually allowed them to reduce the prescription drugs they were taking on a regular basis. Excuse me. So that's gonna be really cool. We'll talk about it in a second. And then in local news, we got some events coming up. We've been kind of talking about them all week. But tomorrow specifically, we got some really fun stuff happening. And then in the next coming weeks, we got some really fun stuff happening again. So just stay tuned and we'll let you know what that is. But first, national news, this story. So in Tel Aviv, what they did is they did a study and they took 19 elderly patients over a 1-year period and enrolled them in Israel's federal marijuana access program. And what they're able to do was choose from 4 different strains of cannabis, and the subjects were all in nursing home care. So they weren't at home, they weren't coming in, they were like already in nursing homes. And so what they found over that year study was a reduction of need of the necessary or the need for a bunch of these pain medications that they're on. Of the 19 patients total, between all of them, once they began the medical marijuana treatments, by the end of the year, they stopped taking 39 prescription drugs. So I think there's like 19, 2. So it's like 2 apiece, at least, at minimum, on average, which is huge, especially considering that, at least for my family anyway, like all of my grandparents were like, when I'd go and visit them and stuff, they always had like a table full of pills that they were on. And so if cannabis can reduce even just them having to take, 2 different prescriptions 3 times a day or whatever it is, just think about how much that increased their quality of life, especially at that stage. And so, again, cannabis, powerful medicine. Fuck you, government. Excuse me.
It's all right. Good shot. Hey, and then what do we got going on locally? So locally, we've got St. Cloud. We're going to be out there tomorrow from 1 to 5, right, Barry?
Yes, sir.
And Lake George, is that the correct address?
Lake
George in St. Cloud. The Wake and Bake crew, MN Normal, will all be out there with flags. We're going to be doing voter registrations. We're going to be doing voter pledging. We're going to be handing out cards and information. I'm going to gather up all the stuff that I can bring out there. I'll probably bring some swag. I got a request for some of these tank tops. So I do have some of these. I'll bring these out as well. We're going to get out there and do what we do best in the community, educate and try to uplift the movement everywhere we go. Also, we did get some pretty dope news. If you weren't watching, the Secretary of State's office is going to be joining the Wake and Bake crew. We do have a date for that. That'll be July 14th. It's Tuesday. So during this time, Tuesday, July 14th, we're going to start our regular Wake and Bake crew right around 9, and then they'll be jumping in with us around 9:30 or so to talk about the elections, voting, and how you can vote from home with absentee balloting if you're afraid to go to the polls during the COVID-19. Really important stuff for us to know when it comes to elections, because as most of you guys know, the only way that we're actually going to be able to legalize in Minnesota is if we vote in the right people and we actually put pressure on our legislators to do that and make that change for us. So that's what we have going on locally. We also have barbecue July 4th at Composure Park in St. Paul. It'll be most of the chosen family, but you're welcome to come. We'll be serving free food, playing kickball. We got disc golf. Just a good afternoon of hanging out and having fun. And then July 18th, we'll be in Duluth. So if you're in the Duluth area, we will be there July 18th with Damn Normal, Duluth area, MN Normal. That's Ginger's here, Rhonda's here with us. Connect with them on Facebook. If you're in St. Cloud, connect with Vari. If you're in Bloomington, you can connect with Leisha George. Myself and Sina Black are in St. Paul. There's plenty of ways for you to get involved, so please just reach out to us. I'm going to hand it off to, what's that?
Is we do have a set space now. We will be at Leif Erikson Park.
So there you guys go. They'll be at Leif Erikson Park in Duluth, July 18th. I know there's a lot of dates for you guys to keep up with. I'll make sure that we post the events and stuff into Facebook and on our social media so you guys can find them if you're in those areas. Vari, do we have anything else for local?
No, not that I can think of. Unless you wanted to mention, I mean, like our Tuesday night thing. Is that like a open thing?
The phone banking?
No, the Pictionary.
The Pictionary is done.
Done.
No.
Guys won. Guys
Okay.
won.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, but we'll give them a chance to rematch. So the guys are all going to get first.
Guys.
Sizes. So
Like
guys,
Hey, just clarification.
You didn't even have to
Donor
mention
charades.
it, Barney.
And the guys are going to be given handwritten rules on what's acceptable and what's not.
right.
Like
Well,
unnecessary
Whatever the
words.
situation. So, hey, Greg, you had something real quick?
Yeah, I'm just getting clarification for everybody that's coming out Saturday and they're looking for the tank tops. They don't get the guns with it, right?
Guns? Guns down, right?
For some guns.
Right.
I'm just wondering if we get the pipes with the shirts or if that's,
Man.
this is our Michael Jordan campaign.
If I could take them off like a He-Man character, I would give you one.
You mean they
Yeah,
don't come
so,
out like
I'm
Jason Momoa's do?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hand it off to Jenny Egan. Jenny's gonna do a bong cheers for us really quick with the cannabis facts. So are you ready today, Jenny?
Yep. I'm on my way. Choosing one now. Waiting on my slow phone. That's all.
Now you froze.
No, I'm looking up my phone. That's why. I'm looking up my facts. That's why. I mean, not my phone.
Oh God.
Here we go. We'll take this one. I only have 52 to choose from, but you know, check this one out. I think this is very relevant right now.
Into a bat.
Not bad, I think.
Wow.
Wow.
Too bad they didn't try and eat that bat.
I'm just saying, I want whatever weed he got to smoke.
Right?
Exactly.
I want some too.
That dude thought he was a bat.
Cheers,
Cheers.
everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
There's your great little 420 fact of the day.
So I'm testing something out real quick. once again, during the bong cheers, I just want to see if this will work.
Yep.
Yes. Can you do that while she's sharing from now on?
Yeah, I think we can. So,
Here, I'll try it.
like you guys said, for those of you guys watching on Facebook, again, we're still learning this.
No, we cannot.
You cannot.
This is raw. This is happening before your eyes, folks.
If I start sharing the screen, it will stop the other's computer sound share.
Okay. So maybe when we get the fact together, we'll post the fact with the music, and then we can utilize this music for supporting local artists in the Twin Cities area. So if you're watching us on Facebook and you do music or you're in the entertainment or something like that, and you'd like to get a shout out on the Wake and Bake Room, please reach out to me during our Cannabis Fact, Jenny's Bong Rip, or
Bong cheers.
Bong Cheers, thank you. We'll play some local music for you guys so we can kind of build some awareness and get your word out there. So that's it. So at this section right now, we got live guests. We don't have a guest scheduled today, but we do have a special guest, Oliver Steinberg, joining us for our live today. Has been a huge inspiration for me personally in the legalization movement, helped me through a lot of times when I really kind of wanted to give up on it. Check him out. If you don't follow Oliver Steinberg on Facebook, go on there, watch his page. He's running for office this year under Grassroots Legalized Cannabis. We also have Ed Engelman and Dave Hulkerbeck. I always have a problem pronouncing that last one. They're all candidates running for office this year. As you guys know, we're trying to get as many of the candidates on to talk to us about legalization as possible. It doesn't matter what party it is, Democratic, Republican, Independent, Green. If you have a message and you want to talk to the community, please, we're trying to build this platform so we can educate our community on what's going on. And I'm sure they'd like to hear your stance on a lot of the stuff that we're working on. So Oliver, Ed, David, thank you guys for joining us today.
Yes, thank you guys.
Well, thank you all. I'm happy to see Ed Engelman again, the Grassroots Party candidate for lieutenant governor back in 2010. And David, you've got a very interesting situation coming up over there in your district of Minnesota, where you're the only person on the ballot against the incumbent senator, and she may not be a resident of that district and might not be eligible to be on the ballot. So that's going to be worth looking into. Do you want, Michael, should I take a few minutes now, or do you want to rotate the other?
No, go ahead. I'll only take a couple minutes now. We're in our guest speaker section. So
I'm going to the dentist this morning, so I got to get off at about 10 o'clock. So, I want to have time to answer questions too. And I want to say that it's very, very inspiring to see the leadership that is starting to, work its way up from grassroots, to use a phrase, in our state, because it's really going to be up to the people. If we want to get constitutional cannabis for ourselves and our families, if we want the restorative justice that has to be part of the reform so that nobody has to go through life branded as a criminal for anything associated with cannabis, since it never was a crime to begin with. It's not going to be done by the politicians. It's got to be done by the people. Well, actually, it's going to be done by the politicians with the people pushing them every inch of the way. And we're the people.
right.
Now, what's going on this year? Since we started in 1986, when Nancy Reagan was going berserk, and all these terrible laws were being passed to intensify and criminalize everything about the so-called controlled substances. We realized that we don't have in Minnesota the ability to put the law itself up for a vote, like in California, Colorado, Oregon, the others. Half the states let the people write their own laws with the ballot measure. Minnesota is one of the states where it's not in our state constitution. So we decided to run candidates for office, and we're not politicians, just people with a point of view. And as a candidate, we're basically running as surrogates for the issue of justice and get on the ballot. What we used to have to do was to collect ballot petition signatures. And any of you who worked on those campaigns with us to get those signatures know it was hard work. You had to really, isn't that right, Ed? You had to really, and Michael, you remember, this separated the people who
We're
really cared
serious.
about this and were serious from anybody else. So to qualify to be on the ballot, we had to work very hard, and sometimes we were burned out by the time we got our signatures in the 2-week period. Well,
Sorry.
under Minnesota law, if your candidate gets 5% of the vote statewide, then you become a major political party with automatic ballot access. And that means that you don't have to petition to get onto the ballot to run for office. And in 2018, that's what happened to the cannabis parties in this state. Michael got 140,000 votes, something like that, over 5% of the vote, running for state auditor, in a 4-way race. And he therefore got the Legal Marijuana Now Party major party ballot status. And
I made history in the state of Minnesota.
Yep. And Noah Johnson,
Congratulations.
got over 5% in the Attorney General's race, even though Noah Johnson on the grassroots ticket had already said he was not going to campaign, but would support the Democratic Farmer Labor candidate, Keith Ellison, because Ellison came out in favor of legalization after Noah talked to him. And that's always been our point. We didn't try to get ourselves elected to office, but we wanted the issue to get into the debate and taken seriously by the politicians who really have power. And so, gradually we got to the point. Now we still have a lot to do. And once the two parties got this major party status, that meant a lot easier to run for office. But it also means that anybody with an affidavit and the filing fee can put their name down and say they're the candidate for legal marijuana, or they're the candidate for grassroots. And
Ali,
yeah.
I just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Yep.
In 2018, that was incredible what we were able to pull off, Ali. The biggest moment that I remember the most is when we were standing in McDonald's and we were piling all the petitions up on the table. I think it was 15,000 signatures. We had 10 days?
2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, it was cut short in 18. So, but yeah, Ali, just the look on your face, Ali, man, that's the biggest moment.
I was crying. We worked 40 years for that,
Yeah. So I was, man, that was the greatest feeling I ever felt, man. We took a picture at the Capitol after we turned them in, man. It's great. And I just wanted to add, when I did run for office on LMN, my only dream with working with LMN since 2015, I was the chair up till earlier this year. We just wanted to bring awareness to the issue. We wanted to put the issue on the ballot so the major parties would take it serious and see that it's an issue people care about. We did get 5%, and we did see more legislation introduced the following year, but it was never my intention to put us in a position now to where we have, people who really want to cause harm to the movement instead of help actually file to get on the ballot. It was hard work to collect those signatures, and it kind of weeded out the serious people and the people that weren't really trying to see legalization happen. Now we got to really educate the community on what people are for legalization and what people are just trying to utilize that platform as a way to cause problems or try to sway elections. And it sucks that, right.
That's what we're encountering this year. So major party status was very important because that showed that enough people in this state really were concerned enough about this to vote for unknown candidates in order to make a point about the issue. And
I had a real quick question, though, Ali.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Is it possible for the parties to put into their bylaws that candidates have to actually get the endorsement of the party in order to get on the ballot? Is that something that can be done?
We have a process for endorsement, but it can't keep anybody off the ballot. This year, statewide, there were over 200 opportunities for people to file for different offices, for the legislature, for Congress, and so forth. And 28 people have filed either under grassroots or under legal marijuana now. Maybe it's 29. I think it might be 29 people. And unfortunately, 7 or 8 of them are not authentic. They are people who signed an affidavit saying that they supported the party, and yet we've discovered, well, not so much we discovered, I suspected a couple because I could recognize the names of people who had run as Republican candidates in the past. And then a reporter, Patrick Coolican,
If you guys want to find that, it was from the Minnesota Reformer.
Minnesota Reformer of June 15th. He discovered and identified several more of these candidates. And then Marty Super has told me that he personally talked to the woman that's running for state senate in the St. Cloud district, I think it is.
As far as district.
Jaden Partlow. Anybody here know Jaden Partlow? Well, another Republican ringer. So if 1 or 2 people, how could they do this? Because they they falsely stated on their affidavits that they had either attended the party precinct caucus, which none of them had, or that they intended to vote for a majority of the party candidates in the coming election, which I think is probably a lie, but you can't tell how people vote because it's a secret ballot. So it's election fraud, basically. And it's not just 1 or 2 people with a crank idea. There's 8 people in certain districts where they think that by pretending to be cannabis candidates, they think they'll take votes and somehow help the Republican and hurt the Democrat. Now, they may be wrong about what the effect will be, but I think we have an obligation to explain and educate, because what we're always doing is explaining and educating. And we're not talking about explaining about the cannabis issue now. We have to explain about election law and procedures. And that's the message that I have about what's going on this year in our little state, in our little pocket of the pandemic. But that's enough talking from me. And
no, wait, Ali, I have a question for you.
I'm listening.
Stein, I was going to ask you a question too. In the DFL, do they have a way to, in their bylaws, keep candidates off of the ballot if they're not endorsed by the party?
No, in fact, party endorsement doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to win the primary.
Right.
You know that like Mark Dayton was not endorsed in 2010.
Yeah.
So the election system is this.
Actually, was Governor Walz actually endorsed?
No.
Yes, I think they did endorse.
No, I think they endorsed somebody else.
Oh no, you're right.
They
endorsed
what's her name?
Aaron Murphy.
Aaron Murphy, yeah.
Yep. And then he still won in the primary. So
yeah. Who gets to be
Yeah,
on the
but up
ballot?
until that point, though, they can't say they represent the DFL, right? If the party has endorsed somebody.
I
And
think,
the
if
party,
they were
I think the DFL has the resources to make that stick.
Mhm.
But of course, what they usually do is,
a write-in ballot, if they were a written-in ballot, could they not though?
I don't, this is where we'll ask the Secretary of State's people about,
They'll be on July 14th.
it used to be that you could not write in one of these primary elections where, so there's a two-part election. In August is the primary election where every party, where there's, like say you have 4 people running for Congress as a Republican, they only can have 1 in November in the general election. So they have a primary election to narrow the 4 down to 1. Suppose you had, like with the year that Mark Dayton was elected governor, there were 10 DFL candidates for governor. So they had a primary, and after the primary, there was 1 person who got the most votes, and that person, in this case, Mark Dayton, became the nominee. So here is part of registering people to vote. We had to get to explain to them when they vote and what, the step-by-step process of citizenship. And in most of these cases where these imposters have come in as pretend cannabis candidates, they're the only one whose name will be there, so there won't be a primary. There's one district, the 7th congressional district, where we will have a primary in the grassroots party. One candidate named Anderson is a person who's run 4 times as a Republican and once as an independent. And she is even a little bit extreme for the Republicans. and then we have Kevin Shores, or Naysay, who is Naysay because he's Alicia's brother, and he is a bona fide cannabis activist. And so
now, if you guys don't know Kevin Shores, you can find him on Facebook. We also run a page called Cannabis Resolution. We've been trying to legalize cannabis on White Earth. Go on there and check him out. He's running for Grassroots, right? Grassroots Legalized Cannabis District 2. Is that right, Ali?
District 7.
They're going to have a primary.
There is a primary, and the voting is actually starting, I guess, today. It's early voting is starting. And so we have an obligation, educational task ahead of us to publicize who's authentic and who isn't, and to explain that you need to vote with information. We have to decide who's in any situation. If we can't keep somebody off the ballot impersonating us, we can certainly expose. Now, if we can run write-in campaigns for people in the primary, then we could recruit people in some of these districts with the fake candidates.
Well, Ali,
I
just wanted to ask real quick, because normal we try to remain nonpartisan.
Right.
Just because they may have ran as Republican in the past, maybe they still support legalization. Wouldn't that be a good thing though? If we had somebody from that side that actually does support legalization and wants to fight for that, whether they're Republican or,
it's an issue that it does appeal to people. We know from surveys that a majority of Republican voters do support legalization. However, we have 2 or 3 questions here. One is the motive. If somebody lied that they were a member of our party, they might be lying if they say they support legalization. They may motive for why they're in here, why they put themselves forward. They've never been a cannabis activist in the past. They've never lifted a finger for us, and all of a sudden they're marching at the head of the parade. I don't trust somebody who is not, who can be shown, that they've supported that point of view. For the Republicans have blocked every attempt to advance in Minnesota. And what they're trying to do is keep control of the state Senate. And the state Senate is where every single modest little reform, like expanding the medical program, allowing people to, making it less expensive, allowing people to use natural herb and so forth. They could have had it we could have had it this year, but the Republicans in the state Senate blocked it. So the fight in Minnesota is for the control of the state Senate. And where these people have filed in the state Senate races and legislative races is where they think they can help the Republicans keep their power and hurt the Democrats. Same thing at the national level, where you'll have a handful of people who are Republican candidates who say they support legalization. But when they vote together with the rest of the Republicans in Congress, that's why we still have cannabis on Schedule I. That's why we still can't get cannabis businesses to be able to do safe, legal banking. That's why every attempt to move ahead has been blocked. That's why in the COVID legislation, Republicans spent more time denouncing assistance to cannabis industry businesses than they did in taking the epidemic itself seriously. So that's why I am suspicious here. And they've got to definitely prove something. I think it would be great if people who had been in the habit of voting Republican but aren't quite ready to go and vote for the DFL, would find themselves a home with the constitutional cannabis parties. They'd be welcome. And some of our best candidates in the past, like nobody here, I'm sure, remembers Dwight Feldman, but he ran for 3rd District Congress and said, yeah, I voted for Ronald Reagan, but didn't vote for Nancy. And he became a very good candidate and supporter for many, many years. And so
I just wanted to add real quick, if you are a supporter that does vote Republican, we do have a page where you can reach out and try to get involved. It's called Rant Minnesota, Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition. I don't think legalization should be a party issue, and it sucks that they're actually using the issue to kind of persuade and alter elections. It seems like they care more about the elections than they do the welfare of the people. Just my thoughts and opinions. But
well, I can editorialize as a candidate, but you probably can't as not a candidate.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, thanks, Ali. I appreciate you coming on with us today. I guess we can open up this open up this portion for a couple of questions for either Ed and Dave, who are on every day anyway. I'm sure they've answered most of their questions, but Oliver Steinberg or any other person in the chat, and then I'll give it over to Vari after that for a wrap up. Hearing no questions, Vari, pass it off. Oh, you're muted. Hey, Vari, you're muted.
I was double muted. My mic was muted too. So first, again, for the third time, I just want to thank you guys again for coming. We definitely appreciate your time and your knowledge, and you guys are more than welcome to keep coming back. Another great show Friday. You know, end of the week. A lot of things happen this week. It's gonna be an amazing weekend, big event tomorrow. So everybody, you know, in town, make sure you come out, show your support. Get a hold of me if you want to throw down and you know, join us. You got to go through some training first. But anyways, yeah, that's our show. Again, visit www.mnnormal.org. That's www.mnnorml.org, and become a dues paying member. $4.20 a month. That's $4.20 a month. Not much pocket change. That's a coffee. And fight for legalization in Minnesota. You guys are great. Keep coming back. Peace.